Hello, 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 everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight. My name's Anthony Horvath. I'm the host of the Gutencast. I'm glad that you are with me. Really appreciate it. We're going to possibly have some new subscribers join us, which makes me very happy. And tonight we're going to be talking about a topic that is near to and dear to me in a lot of ways. I am a publisher. I am a writer of children's books also. But books have always been a part of my life. Uh, there's some famous stories. Like this one time, I think I was in like sixth grade. My brother walked by the classroom and looked at me in the classroom, and I had the textbook open, and inside the textbook, I had the actual book that I was reading, and little bugger squealed on me. I don't know if I got in trouble. It was a long time ago, but and actually, as far as textbooks go, um, from the time that I first remember, the first 2 weeks of every class all the way through college, I read the entire textbook. I had the textbooks read within 2 or 3 weeks of the class starting, and then after that, I just kind of listened. So I like reading, I guess you could say, and I like writing, and I like the worlds that are created in these children's books. Um, and even though I don't think about them very often, I know that they've left a mark on me. And before I bring my guest in, I thought I would share one of my earliest favorite books. Um, it's this one right here. Is that like shown as the opposite? Is that backwards? Or does it show as proper on your screen? What the? Well, Jamie, damn it, I don't have a Jamie yet. So anyway, it says dinosaurs, and this book is written in the 1950s. But it's I checked this out of my local library, I believe in 1980, and it did not get back to the library. And there used to be the little card right here. I don't know where it went. Oops, that was as part much of this. Excuse me, as much of the story as anything else. Um, so I'm afraid to say the name of the library, even though it's right here, because the library fine has got to be immense at this point, and I really don't want to be tracked down by those kinds of people. But this is great pictures. Kids, 6-year-olds love dinosaurs, right? And maybe dinosaurs themselves haven't been part of my life and firing my imagination per se. But there's elements even in that, talking about how fossils were found in the Badlands, and some people actually like the true lore is Indians saw what looked like pterodactyls dropping into the Badlands of South Dakota. I mean, that's something that really fires the imagination as a young kid, I think. So, at any rate, um, we're going to talk about children's books today. We're going to talk about my favorite children's books, at least some of them. I have a whole stack here of my own, and my guest has some as well. And I should mention that he is an author of a children's book, and I'm an author of a children's book. And we're going to have lots of time to talk about all these things. But I wanted to take 1 second to plug my own. This is the Warden Watch. I can't believe it's backwards. So I thought everyone was going to see my shirt and it was going to say the man, but that's not what it shows at all. Apparently, I'm the ethnam. Embarrassing. Anyway, the Warden Watch, and the second in the series is The Fisher King's Apprentice, and there is a third book coming out. So now's a good time to get involved. And if you're wondering if you should buy it, you absolutely should. My wife says it's the best of all the things that I've written, but then she doesn't like politics, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But my wife likes it, and you don't know her, but take her recommendation anyway. So I should mention as I get going here, I am a publisher. The Gutencast is sponsored by gutenbookpress.com, and there are links in the description to our books, to just about everything we talk about here. And we really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all of that stuff. And without any further ado, let me just bring in my guest here. I'm moving a little bit faster than I expected, but it looks like he's ready. So, our guest today is Rodney Gair. Rodney, how you doing?
Tony, it's nice to see you again. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. You know how I
Good.
spent my day?
I do not. I notice you're wearing a
Yeah,
NAM shirt.
I know. I should figure out. There's got to be a way to fix it. Maybe I can fix it on the. Thank you for bringing that up again. I wasn't too sensitive about it or anything. Yeah, today I basically helped harvest about I don't know 2,000 heads of garlic. So you can't see this, knowing obviously the smell emanating from my whole being right now is it's a good time to be alone. We'll say that, and this virtual thing is working for me tonight.
Well, it's working for all of us, I guess.
Yeah, right. So I think we should talk about I mean, just I mentioned my book first. Um, oh boy, now even the commentary in the chat is making fun of my shirt. Yeah,
You're
it's
welcome.
yeah. We should at least take a minute to get your book out there so people can reference it. So I have it. Here's the cover, and why don't you show people the hard copy in your hand?
Sure. I'd be happy
Yep.
to do that.
So
Just got to
you can.
line things up.
Yep. And yours is not reversed.
I'm so glad that's the case because it often is when I'm using these virtual cameras.
Yeah. In fact, now I think I know why it is. There we go.
I'm not sure why it's even an option with the cameras, but there you
There it
go.
is. See? Look, I got it fixed.
Hey, it actually
Yeah.
says man, the man. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's because my camera is actually upside down. And so when I flipped it upside down and then flipped it via the software, I forgot I had to reverse it. So anyway, I just didn't notice after all these weeks. So you wrote The Elephants and the Emperor. This is a children's book. I don't know. We figure what kindergarten through maybe eighth grade. Um, I publish it through Gutenbook Press. Um, it's got really nice looking elephants on there. Why don't you just briefly tell us before we get into the meat and potatoes of the childhood books that we liked? Why did you write this book, and why might this be a book that 20 years from now some adult will go look back and say, "Hey, that was one of my favorite books." I mean, that's our hope, right?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Well, like you, I've got some memories from childhood books too. And in fact, I can remember um, a moment with my mom, and she was going through a book with me, and it had a whole bunch of balloons on the cover. I remember that very distinctly. And in retrospect, I remember the title of it. And I also remember the very first word in the book. And that was the
Okay.
word up, just UP, two letters. But in my conscious memory, that's actually the very first word the very first written word I can ever remember being able to comprehend and recognize as a written word. And the
Interesting.
title of that book was Up, Up, and Away. And it was just a children's story about colorful balloons. And maybe the most engaging part of it for a small child was that it had a whole bunch of colorful balloons in it. But I think that was maybe the first book that I could ever possibly read. And that would have been kindergarten age, possibly even maybe 4 years old when I was shown that. Because when I got to grade 1, I could read. I was
Hmm.
fully literate, being able to read before I got to that class, thanks to my mom's efforts. Um, so, and I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back on that now, you think about the series of books that led up to that one, and then the next group of books as I matured into an adult that you go through. When you suggested this topic, originally, right away my first question was, well, what do you mean by a kid when you're talking about reading books? Because there's such a scope, starting with something like that, a children's picture book, and then leading up to, the novels that a young teen might read.
Mm-hmm.
Quite different books through that whole
Yeah.
range. So this book, for me, the one that I put together earlier this year, The Elephants and the Emperor, that was based on a real world event where a herd of elephants went for a big trek across China. This was just a few years ago. It was kind of mid-pandemic. Everybody was locked up in their homes. And this was worldwide news that these elephants were walking across China and crossing rivers, crossing bridges, crossing freeways, going through farms, eating food. And nobody knew where they were going. This was really unusual that elephants were traveling through this area. And it was that element of it that nobody knew what they were doing that was most interesting to me. And there's a lot of theories put out by scientists about where they were headed and why. A lot of it was attributed to environmental concerns. But all of those theories kind of got thrown in the trash can when at one point the elephants turned around and went back to where they started again. So they weren't actually running from anything. They were just on a little adventure. And that gave me that's the opening that I needed to finish the story off, and that I had been developing in my head. And you made a reference to children's interests in animals like dinosaurs earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they are equally engaged with animals like elephants and giraffes and dolphins and so forth too. That would be the contemporary equivalent to the dinosaur, I guess. So
Yeah.
that's where the story came from.
Hey, just incidentally, do you know, did the elephants return back to like exactly where they came from?
Yeah, apparently. The name of that lake, it escapes me just this moment, but they actually went back to the exact same place. So ideas about destruction of food habitat, no, not so much.
Yeah. Right.
Ideas about overcrowding of elephants, not so much maybe.
Right.
Human encroachment, no. So they still don't really know. I know. I wrote the story, of course,
Right. We
but
finally have the definitive answer. Yeah.
but the scientists don't know. So
Right. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I like your book is that it is based on that true story, and the fact that we don't know why they did it. That's the part where the imagination can come in, right? And in the book, you use your imagination to come up with an idea, but as soon as a kid finds out that it's based on a real thing, then they're going to be, I'm assuming they can tell the difference between your fiction and the reality. Maybe they'll start wondering, why do they do this, and they'll come up with their own ideas. So to me, it's like there's fertile ground for imaginative play all throughout this book.
that's key to this. I've been getting feedback about the story since you put the book out for me, and one of the things I'm noticing is that no two people see the book through the exact same lens, and that's the imagination of even adults that are inserting
Right.
the frames between the pictures, so to speak,
Yeah.
to use a comic reference or an illustrated book reference. It's in the gutters between those images that your brain goes to work and imagines, the frame that the story is creating. Your brain fills in the rest of it for you. And that's the stuff that you dream about. And that's the stuff that you remember as you grow up. And that's the stuff that creates your experiential base for all the other things that you do in life.
Yeah. So, hey, JB, in my previous episodes, when I would hit my desk, the microphone would jangle. Can you let me know if it still does that? Because there I'm pounding. You let me know. So I thought I would start out with one of my favorite books growing up, and this would be a young adult book probably. And I did not reread all of these books, So if I get some of the details wrong in what they're about and whatnot, I hope no, I don't want a hate mail for it. But it's My Side of the Mountain, and this is a an updated edition. The one that I had growing up, looked all kind of ratty and stuff by the end. I don't know where it is. I went out of my way to buy this separately to give to my own kids to read, and I don't think they ever did. What a bunch of chumps. I'm like, hey, great book. And they're like, oh, dad likes it. Screw that. Thank you, JB. Appreciate that. So anyway, I think this guy's in the Appalachian Mountains. He's a kid, and for some reason he decides to run away, and running away means running up to the top of the side of the mountain, right? He's in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and I forget the age exactly. Maybe I wonder if it'll say.
Can I jump in on you for a minute there?
Yeah, go for it.
Catskills. The story is based in the Catskills.
Oh, all right, there we go. God, live fact checking. What a scary world this is.
You got to remember the internet's in the background, Tony.
Yeah, I know. So, but he runs away, and his parents are like completely on board with this. They're like, "See ya, have a great time." His dad actually says that every kid should run away at least once. And I think the idea of behind that is you're not going to really appreciate what you're leaving until you go up, but go out. And so he goes out and decides to live on this mountain with the full blessing of his parents. So as an adult looking back at this story, like I have all these like explanations for like what really happened. Like it's really like just a really big backyard, right? They can see him back there with his little fire and tent and whatnot, but that's not the way the book is presented. The book is presented like, I mean, he's just out there figuring out how to catch rabbits on his own and live basically an independent life, like the wild man from A Brave New World. Anyway, so finally he wanders back, and I don't know exactly why this. I have some theories psychologically as to why this book resonated with me. But like right now, I can tell you as an adult, like my greatest wish right now, if I could, would be to go about 1,000 miles away to where nobody is. And I know I would not be able to do the podcast ever again, but just like live like Robinson Crusoe. I mean, nothing would give me more pleasure. In fact, I just had a conversation with my wife. We were talking about whether or not I should ever go in a nursing home. And she said, no, you already told me that you just want to go out to a cabin in the woods and die. Yes, you get me. Yes. But she won't let me do it now, which is the problem. Go
Robinson
ahead.
Crusoe, even, I bet, would take Starlink with him if he could this time.
That's right. Yeah, there would be, the worst trade-off for me now would be no coffee.
Okay,
But
Starlink and coffee. Yeah.
yeah, but I have figured out that if you toast dandelion roots and then grind them up, it's close enough to the flavor. It actually, I wouldn't say that it tastes like coffee directly, because you drink coffee, right? You like coffee. Yeah.
Endlessly throughout the day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would not say that it tastes explicitly like coffee. What it does is it tastes like if you go into one of those fancy dancy uppity coffee shops and order something for like $20, and they bring it out to you in a whatever they want to call it, some fancy thing from Asia, whatever they call it. It tastes like something gourmet is what it does. And I don't normally like gourmet, but if I had no coffee, I would drink it. Is the point. Like it's
You would
close
learn to
enough.
like it very quickly if you were without it.
Yeah. So I mastered the art of toasting dandelion roots, and then I ordered a bottle of caffeine tablets. So this is my backup plan. I'm gonna I'm gonna drink my hot dandelion coffee, and then in the morning, if I ever lose access to coffee, and then pop a caffeine pill, and hopefully this is a tolerable substitute.
So it's going to be dandelions and cockroaches after the apocalypse, is it? Okay, I'll write that down and get ready.
I don't recall saying anything about cockroaches.
Oh.
Is that that's what you're gonna eat? This is what you're the expert in preparing, right?
Oh, well, I'll just stick to the coffee then. I think I'm not going to be
Okay.
quite that bold or that daring to.
Yeah.
Just something about it that doesn't appeal. Sorry.
No
Dandelion
problem.
wine. I've heard of this too. That might be something I might try. But dandelion
Yeah.
coffee, sketchy.
I haven't yet tried. Excuse me. I haven't tried to make dandelion wine, but I've had it, and it may as well be just any other wine. I mean, obviously it's distinctive, but like it's not bad. If you like wine, you're probably gonna like dandelion wine. This would be my thing. Yeah. So then, what was one of the books you mentioned? I should have. There was it was Chronicles of something.
Oh, the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of starting with older readers, I guess. I must have been 9 or 10 years old, I think, when I was handed the first book in that series. And the thing about that is, like, as you're starting to read the book, it might just be something off the back cover that you pick up after you first start into it, but you begin to realize that it's a trilogy. And then as you really get into it, you realize it's a trilogy of trilogies. And then, and there's a bonus on top of that. So it's actually a 10-book series. But the experiences of Thomas Covenant, it starts with some kind of grim real-world realities. He lives in Colorado. Not that that's grim, but he lives in a contemporary Colorado setting and suffers terribly from leprosy, of all things. Probably not very common in Colorado, I'm guessing. But there's something about that condition that causes him to teleport. And it's not just a psychological disorder, but he, as you get through the story, you realize he is actually moving between realities, dimensions, if you want. And in that other dimension is a world that is, I guess you think of it as, compared to Colorado today, it would be more like Greece or ancient Rome or something, where people still carried hand weapons, spears and swords and so forth. And, there wasn't motor vehicles and there wasn't airplanes, and a lot of the creatures were a little bit different. And most remarkably of all, he was no longer a sick man in that world. He was a healthy, strong adult and could move normally. And he turns into something of a hero in that world, where he starts to care for other people and reluctantly gets dragged into a conflict between good and evil. And by the end of each book, he always teleports back to his decrepit condition here, and has to carry on with a certain part of his life here, where things like his marriage are in a shambles, and his kids all hate him, and he's not a hero. He's the opposite of a hero. He's just struggling, like a lot of people are. So each book in the series, reinserts him back into this other universe, and it allows you that fantastic escape that you can assign to your own life, like you were just doing a moment ago. Being on an island 1,000 miles away, living the life of a shipwrecked sailor. So that's that's the kind of thing that the book affords in your imagination as you're reading it. And so each book takes you back, and in each of those other stories, he really advances his life and turns into quite a significant person in that other world. And by the 10th book, it all kind of wraps up where both worlds work out really nicely for him. So it's a compelling read. But I would say that's one, for slightly older kids. It's a kid's story, but it's kind of along the lines of, a Tolkien Hobbit / Lord of the Rings kind of series. Although it's got quite a bit more mass to it. Like, it is a bigger, I think you'll someday see that's a big Hollywood production. That's series of movies, because it's a good story. It's a good read, and it's well done. It's well written. So yeah, there you go. Thomas Covenant, the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant.
A lot of people, a lot of us, a lot of the writing community have been trying to find ways to reinvent the Lord of the Rings world, right? Like, there's so many attempts to do that, so many different ways that people have tried to come at that, and it's just really hard to do. But do you think that was this Thomas Covenant? Is that what it was? Thomas Covenant?
That's the character's name. The book is written by Stephen Donaldson.
Do you think it succeeds in, like, finding another way of, not ripping off Tolkien, but, creating the world building kind of project?
I'd say it's equal.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's really, really well written. The language in it is really strong. It's a good flow in the story, and there's really good character development in the story. And spanning 10 books, you can imagine, how much time, how much room you have for getting into character development. So there's a good depth to it, and I would absolutely recommend that to anybody to read. Really, it's actually a good book for adults to read. If you, as an adult, if you enjoyed the Lord of the Rings series or any of Tolkien's books, and you haven't seen this, then you would probably enjoy this, because it's done in a similar way, but it's a completely different story. So,
okay. Now you were just telling me the name of the author. Were you gonna tell us something about the author as well? I interrupted you.
I'm afraid I don't know anything about the author. I just felt I did him a disservice by not starting with it. As an author, I can't believe I didn't mention his name before I mentioned the title. But
sure,
yeah.
Huh? So
he's an American author. That's of interest to you.
So in the comment section, somebody suggested that I stock up on freeze-dried coffee. So this is kind of a funny story, actually. Right around very shortly after COVID started. I mean, I was ready for COVID, like, in every possible way. I had all the ammo I needed. We had lots of food stored away, not because of COVID, just because that's the way I roll, right? But the one weakness was in my inventory was the coffee, and as the governments kept pouring money into the economy, in my mind's eye, I knew what was going to happen. The inflation was going to go nuts, and so I told my wife, start buying coffee, and we bought so much coffee, we had shelves of it, right? And it doesn't matter. We didn't have to buy coffee after that for like 3 years, but it's gone. It's already gone, and now coffee costs even more. Like, the inflationary moment has finally arrived, and I've exhausted my supply, my surplus, which, comparatively speaking, even though prices did go up back then, I mean, it was still reasonably priced compared to what you could get now. So even when I try, I get foiled. So, yeah.
You just gotta play a little bit longer game. That's all.
Right. Well, hey, I've got that covered. You don't know this, I'm pretty sure, but I have something called a wallapini. Have you ever heard that word?
I don't think I have. No. Wallapini.
Yeah, he's gonna go Google this next.
No, I'll go with your explanation on this
It's
one.
like I believe it's a Siberian word, or an Asian word, and it refers to a method of burying a greenhouse so that you can
Huh.
have produce all year long. And then in the cold, very cold regions like Siberia, this is a way to you're not going to have like fruit trees or something in those kinds of settings because you don't get enough sun, and even if it's warmer, it's still not great. Well, my Walipini is heated, and my Walipini has, I kid you not, 20 coffee trees growing in it.
Is that right?
That's right.
So it's
So,
pretty tropical then.
yeah, it's not cost effective to keep it going in December. So what I do is I try to find a happy medium. A coffee plant will pretty much start dying at about 55 degrees, but I let it drop into Walipini to around 60 and just let them all kind of go through a cycle of, I don't know what the word would be. I mean, they don't like go they don't lose their leaves or anything like that like other ones do, but they stop growing, right? They're just basically like sitting around wondering, hey, where did our heat go? You can see them have this conversation. They're doing all their growth right now. But
Right.
I got my first batch of coffee off of them in December, I think, actually. And I
Hmm.
was able to make 1 cup of coffee. So I've got
Yeah.
a ways to go.
Sounds like the story of anybody that ever bought a juicer. They have the idea that they'll be able to take an orange and have a glass of juice, and they
Right.
don't realize it takes 5 pounds of oranges to make
Right.
a glass of juice. So,
Yes, exactly right. And in
mhm.
case anyone's wondering what I'm drinking, and I know they're not, I call this the sludge. It's homemade, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and just a little bit of very small amount of vodka to keep bacteria from growing. So
It was almost sounding good for you there for a moment.
I
Yeah,
I know I had to ruin it, but it's my way of making my wife happy that I don't drink too much. So
good.
yeah.
Well,
So
happy wife, happy life, right?
that's right. So let me talk about my next favorite, or I have so many books that I liked. I shouldn't say favorite. The next one that I had prepared. Um, and if you're watching this and you want to leave in the comments some children's books books that you liked as a kid, bring them up and mention them, and we'll see if either I or Rodney is aware of them. Maybe we can talk about them. So one of my other ones that I really enjoyed was the Encyclopedia Brown series.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen them.
Oh, it's good stuff. Uh,
We had
um,
we had Encyclopedia Britannica in our library.
well, he's called an encyclopedia because he read and memorized the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, uh, and all the other ones too. So this is like the TV show Monk. Are you familiar with that? Like
Mhm.
a detective story or psych. So the kid's a detective basically who has all this information um, in his head, and he's able to piece together clues that everyone else misses. And he has his own little detective shop. I should have went through it. I think he charges 25 cents. Let's see if I can. People can maybe read that. I don't know. It looks backwards again. Um,
Yeah, your
25
image did
cents.
flip a moment ago.
Yeah, what what the heck? Oh, it's
You're
because I'm on
you're the
another
Namigan.
screen. Humiliating. All right. Hold on just a second. Gee whiz.
Well, just while you're doing that, I'll throw in that 25 cents sounds reasonable at twice the price right now.
That's right. Okay, come on, baby. This is not really important, but I was able to do it quickly before.
It's kind of important. You don't want to go down in history as the NAM.
Okay, but why isn't it working this time? I was able to fix. There we go. Okay, the man is back. I'll hold it up. OJ says that he loved this when he was a kid, and JB also said it was a great series. So he would get into these situations, and I don't remember him being very old, 12 or whatever, and he's just this weenie, wiry nerd of a kid. And there's this bully in town that he's always up against. The bully's always trying to get away with crap, and the other kids in the neighborhood always come to Encyclopedia saying, what was the name of the kid, the bully? Was it Bugs? The word name Bugs sounds familiar. Anyway, someone would be the bully would be oppressing some other kid, and they would go and they drop a quarter down on Encyclopedia Brown's desk and say the situation, and Encyclopedia would go out and outwit the bully again and get away scot-free. And it was perfect for me. At that time I was kind of a weenie also. And I very much saw myself in the future as being someone like Encyclopedia Brown. Like, I would have loved that, like, right now. But I do not have a photographic memory, and I find that that's, to my detriment if I want to be that kind of detective.
I'm not really cut out for that kind of thing either, and I also do not possess a photographic memory or even an old Xerox memory for that matter. It's there's mine's more like telex. Tuck, 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 tuck. Yeah.
Do you know how many people have no idea what
I'm talking about? Even yeah. I just gave something away there, didn't I?
Right. Yeah, my wife and I were talking recently about all the words that we used, and I think people still use them even though the context no longer makes any sense. So, like, instead of like using the remote to change the channel, we call it the clicker.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because it used to.
Yeah, it used to. And we still talk about rolling the window down in the car.
Yeah.
And of course, we talk about hanging up the phone. So have you heard? Like, we were trying to think, like, do the kids use other words to describe this, or have all the other all the generations still continue to use these words that you are aware of?
The axioms that we knew, I think, are being lost to time, Tony. It's recently even been pointed out to me by some of the young people that work for me that they just don't really talk like that anymore, in reference to something I've maybe said. So it seems to be changing. I don't know when it happened, but yeah, I suppose when things like the clicker and rotary dial phones and so forth were relegated to the trash heap, it would follow that the language would change a little bit along with it. But I didn't really notice it happening at the time. I was watching an old, related to news about Stephen Colbert and his fate this week. There was one channel that was running some old Letterman reruns, Letterman moments, and he pulled out an old rotary dial phone to call the CBS production desk to ask why they weren't on his 10th anniversary. And anyway, yeah, it struck me even in that moment that he was dialing a corded telephone to call a receptionist who answered in English, by the way, right away. And so it's, like, so many things have evolved so quickly for us in recent years, haven't they?
So, but they still say, like, all the kids that work for you, they still say, I'm going to hang up the phone. I mean, they still use that. Or do they, I mean, what do they say? I'm going to press the little red button on my phone now. I mean, how would they say that if not using our words?
I can't say I've noticed, but there's one word that I notice seems to figure prominently at the end of their uh, smartphone conversations, and that's ciao. Just, just, just as breezy as possible, cool and breezy. Or
Huh.
jet. I got a jet. That's another one I've been hearing.
Okay. I don't know. It seems like one of the other benefits of our era, as far as like the phone goes, is that if you wanted to really leave an impression with somebody and you wanted to show that you were mad at someone, you could really actually hang up that phone, like slam it shut, right? And send a message. And now if you do that with your phone, I mean, it's just uh, it's just it's not the same. It's just not the same.
Well, I'll remind you that the irony in that action is you sometimes cracked the handset of the phone, but it didn't result or generate a louder click on the other end.
you're
Oh,
trying
another
to
click. Yeah, it used to go click, didn't it? Yeah.
you're trying
Look at
to deprive
the
me of my
physical movement of the old
pleasures.
mechanical switch down at the phone exchange downtown actually put a clicking sound into the system. That's interesting. Hadn't thought that went through until I said it.
Wait, what? I thought I was listening to you, but then what?
Well, when you used to slam the phone down, as you
Yeah,
said,
right.
so I was going into how it didn't actually, go kabam on the other end and inform the guy that you just slammed the phone down. You
Yeah,
still heard it
right. I
click.
got the part where you were ruining my old memories. I got that. Yes.
Yes. So, but the click sound, phones don't go click anymore. The digital audio has a cleaner ending or cleaner finish to the end of the phone call now. It did actually used to go click, and that must have had something to do with the mechanical switches in the phone exchange that were
Yeah.
physically moving on the panel when that circuit between the two people was closed.
I can't remember if I don't remember clicking like that. I remember the clicking.
Nobody ever hung up on you, Tony?
I look at me. I'm so nice. I'm so polite. Yeah, I the thing that I remember is like on the party lines, you could hear when
So
somebody else picked up the
you're older
phone.
than I am, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't party lines is maybe not the right word. Like if you have two phones in the same house, right? You could pick up the phone and somebody else could pick up the phone in another room, right? But you could hear that, and then you would know that your mom just picked up the phone, and you should change what you were saying. And there was an audible click then, and then I don't think it was the phone hitting anything. I think it was something on the line. I've just never. This is really kind of a stupid thing to even be thinking about, isn't it? But it really like I'm now wondering like this is like a huge part of my childhood, and I don't remember the details. What else have I
Well,
forgotten?
I'll take you back just a little bit further. An actual party line used to exist in rural areas. Maybe it started in cities, but um, farms running down a section line somewhere. I
Right.
remember this. They would all be on the same line, and they would differentiate a call coming to them by the number of times it would ring coming in, kind of like a call coming into an old fire station.
Uh huh.
7 rings, that's 7 station being toned out. But anybody on the line
Yeah.
could pick up the line and listen in to the call that was going to, ring, 3 ring house or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
that's a party line. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found a here, uh, the town that I live in was I don't know founded in like 1895 or whatever, but I found in the house, which has been in the family since that time. The property that I live in has been that I found the old phone book from the town, and the numbers were just priceless. Like the post office was like the phone number was 4, that was the phone number. It's just the craziest thing. You can't even imagine how that could work, because it must have been like, obviously there's no way that this little town could have the monopoly on the number 4, right? There must have been a way to like navigate through the phone tree to get to the party line, and then like dispatchers or something like shuffled it off from there or something. I have no idea.
Well, there used to be, this is a whole profession,
Right,
telephone operators. They would listen to where you're trying to get to, and they would take the plug, pull it out of the wall, and stick it into the circuit that you were trying to get to. That was the job of the telephone operator.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting mocked. Or maybe not. I knew about an operator. I understand the operator. I'm trying to think about the mechanics of like how like someone in San Diego would call the post office in my little town, and like how the number, like what did they dial in San Diego? Did they dial Wisconsin and they said put me through to this, and they dialed 4? Like I don't
They dial the local operator and say, I need an operator in Wisconsin.
So there would just be there was just a whole series of operators talking to each other to pass.
Oh yeah, to get through from California to Wisconsin, you'd probably have to go through 10 operators.
You know, I never really thought about this before.
Yeah. Analog phones.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we moved on from that, I guess.
So, bit of a rabbit hole we stepped in there.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't think people really care that much. The other book that you sent, which I have in the description, although I forget what it is.
You're looking for a Dr. Seuss title, I bet.
Yeah. Thank you. Green Eggs and Ham. I see that I spelled this word wrong. We'll fix that. Why not? So that was one that meant something to you as a kid, eh?
Well, I don't know if it had meaning, but I've never forgotten it. So
okay,
there's the context for meaning for you. But this is another book for very small kids who might just be learning how to read. I guess I should throw in I was the oldest of 3, so I had 2 younger sisters nearby at all times. And I very likely learned to read a year ahead of the next one behind me, and she learned to read a year ahead of the next one behind her. If number 3 was even getting any attention from mom and dad at that point, they might have been pretty tired out by then. But so Green Eggs and Ham, I remember, and the novelty of that was that, you know, it wasn't just a title, but eggs could be green. Do you know what kind of a creature creates a green egg, Tony?
What?
And as I asked the question, I realized I didn't know the damn answer. But
well, I thought you were setting me up for a joke. I didn't.
Well,
know
no joke. It's either, there really is. It's either an emu or an ostrich. I can't remember which, but their eggs are green.
Like the inside, you're saying?
Yeah. So the story is about preparing, you know, a breakfast that includes green eggs, which are very tasty, I suppose. And
so it was inspired by a real event, is what you're telling me.
It's inspired by a real world thing that most people probably wouldn't know about, but well illustrated book. And Dr. Seuss stories were, you know, I remember we had other Dr. Seuss books in the house that talked about fantastic creatures like push me pull yous, you know, that would go in both directions at once. And you know, animal stories, lots of stories about animals, farm animals and so on. And those were good learning experiences. So those kind of books, you know, with the big writing, the big letters, easy for kids to learn, easy for kids to, you know, to see the images and relate them to real world things that they're hearing about as they're starting to go to school, or when they're driving through the countryside and seeing cows and pigs and chickens and so on. You know, these are all real things. So, you know, those books, those Dr. Seuss books, which I think now are regarded as kind of one of the first series of books that were sort of educational for small children. And boy, I don't really remember anything but those in our house for a certain period of time. You know, for as far as kids' books go, today there's a there's more titles than you could possibly hope to sort
Right.
through.
Yeah.
So it's that genre. He kind of created an entire genre, I think.
So
And I don't know what
you're
kind of doctor he was, by the way, but he always went by Dr. Seuss.
yeah.
So,
I think I read once that he was kind of like someone that you like in his real life, he was quite odd. Like you would not want your kids to be around him. Odd, if I remember.
and he's like me, you're saying.
Well, come on, we're trying to sell your book here, Rodney.
Yeah,
Don't
well, I
be
guess,
talking
yeah,
that way.
make me notorious. Do whatever you got to do. Sell that book, right? Yeah,
That's
I'll go
right.
with that. Sure.
So you reminded me. The mention of this reminded me of Shel Silverstein. Silverstein. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I'm not.
Um, let me see if I can pull it up here real quick.
Sorry, deflated
Because
your idea right at the start there.
I remember in school they would read because I think if I when I get the title maybe you'll remember it. So um let's see. He did the Giving Tree apparently. Here let me switch
I
to
think I've
different.
heard of that title. Yeah.
Here let's
Hmm.
so these and I remember in school there was a couple of Where the Sidewalk Ends. That's the one that I really remember. That doesn't sound familiar to you?
No, I don't know that either. Sorry.
Look at that. You see that? Why was there controversy? Over fears it promotes drug use, the occult, suicide, death, violence, disrespect for truth, disrespect for authority, and rebellion against parents. That's like every book now.
Every book gets a label, doesn't it?
Huh.
You had a title on the screen right at the very beginning of the broadcast here.
Oh,
Should they read that, or could we read? What are we going to let them
oh,
read? What was it?
my thumbnail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, there's something going on in this little jurisdiction I live in. I'm in Western Canada, of course,
Yeah.
and there's just been a review by the provincial government here of just exactly what books are getting into school libraries in recent years. And what was flagged were, books that I think most people would recognize as falling under the banner of DEI these days. Now, DEI on the surface as an ideal sounds like a great thing, but it is apparent that there were some books that were sneaking through that were, these aren't just storybooks. They're how-to books about some topics that probably most people wouldn't be very comfortable being associated with. It's
Sure.
fringe stuff. But the government has come under a tremendous amount of criticism for even suggesting that they should have the authority to censor or edit book lists. And of course, the criticism is coming from the same old group that always criticizes that kind of thing. I think most people feel that it's a good idea to restrict this kind of thing because there are books, there's not too many people you talk to that wouldn't agree that, a magazine like Penthouse, for example, probably shouldn't be allowed in the library of an elementary school.
Well, you would think.
Well, you would think, but there's going to be people that would oppose that view too.
Yeah.
So, I feel like there's some titles that are really obviously shouldn't be in an elementary school, and there's a section of society that wants to include that stuff. And I don't have any problem with the government regulating some of this stuff, but as I say that, I realize, it depends on the government you have today,
Right.
doesn't it? And we allow our
Yeah.
governments to change from time to time. We don't always get something that we agree with. So,
And I think it's not just saying the government, like I wouldn't want the federal government making that decision, but like your local school board, who's
Mm.
directly accountable, most accountable to the constituents in a real tangible way, like their names, like you see them in the gas station. If you're talking about that guy, then you can that person. I'm willing to make those judgments. In fact, I would insist on them making those judgments because it's my kid in the school, right? I don't want him to go to the school and be looking at diagrams of how to have intercourse with, because that's what we're talking about, right? Some of these things, um,
You're still
you
talking
know,
about chickens and yeah.
you know, for like third grade. I mean, that's I don't want that, and a lot of people are not going to want that. But I don't want Trump making that decision. I don't want Biden making that decision. I don't want my governor making that decision. But my school board certainly, or the local library board, they should definitely have the discretion to be able to make those calls. Would you kind of agree with that way of looking at things?
Yeah, in principle. Um,
But not quite
there's-
in practice.
well,
You seem hesitant.
there's no happy solution. There's always going to be a way for somebody that you would never agree with to get into that position of authority, whichever level of the system it's at, where
Yeah,
they're going to make a decision that you're probably not going to like very much. But you know what? This is that's democracy, I guess, isn't it?
yeah,
So and that, so there's a push and pull on that occurs over the full course of time. And the theory is that eventually we come back to that center position that's ideal. And
right.
hmm,
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean,
well,
that's
or maybe
the
we do,
hope,
but
right?
then it just changes again anyway, because
Right.
ideal starts to get boring after a while, and somebody changes that. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So the boy, lots of directions to go. So little known fact. Um, this is gonna sound weird saying, but the books that you're talking about, I collect. I have
Oh,
a lot of
sorry.
them. I have a lot of them on my shelf because I don't like it when people tell me that, well, you're just making a big deal out of nothing. It's not at all what you're saying. You're just misrepresenting it or whatever. And no, I acquired the book. I looked at it. This is not appropriate, and don't even dare try to gaslight me into thinking it's something different because I know. Usually they don't know, right? The you're talking about the banned book crowd, right? They see themselves as the moral acolytes of society, right? They're the ones who are the protectors of all of our freedoms and liberties or whatever. Um, and they get up on their high horses and they want to lecture everybody else. When in fact, actually, they're the one. They'd be just as quick to ban certain books that they wouldn't like, right? I would be curious to know, for example, if a lot a lot of public schools completely lack a Bible, for example. I mean, I don't know that, but it would not surprise me if a lot of them didn't have one. But they would have these books by Planned Parenthood, showing diagrams of whatnot.
Or a Quran.
Right. Yeah. So what
Mhm.
was the when I was growing up, there was a kid. There was a book that I think was kind of in this. Um, Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Did you ever
Canadian
come?
author, Margaret Atwood.
So you know this one.
It's pretty well known
You
in
know,
Canada, definitely. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. And I read that in elementary school. you know,
Is that right?
I didn't really. I don't think really understand it quite so much, but it didn't seem like I know there was. I knew at the time that there was controversy about it, but as a 12-year-old, it didn't really. I didn't really see the controversy. So I guess where I'm going with this is that sometimes I think what an adult views as controversial the kids, it just goes right over their heads, right? So
That's true.
there is a fine line. I'll give you another example of kind of what I mean. Um, have you seen the movie The Goonies?
The Goonies?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have. I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I don't get out much, Tony.
I don't know if we can be friends. So anyway, The Goonies is actually kind of in the it's in the category of the books that I have brought out here. It's I know the comment section is going wild at this point with all four of my viewers. Anyway, so you got a bunch of these kids who are down on their luck, and they get word of a pirate treasure, and they go hunting for it, and there's a chase as these criminals are trying to get to them, and so on and so forth. But I don't remember exactly what year that it came out, but I must have watched this movie 20 times as a kid, right? And I could not wait to show my kids this movie. I could not wait. And so I remember when they were like, the oldest was in like 5th grade or whatever, and the other ones were 3rd grade. It's like, all right, now's the time. I'm going to introduce some culture. And we turn on the Goonies, and not very far into it, you've got the worst language. You've got sexual innuendo, which is not very veiled. You kind of like all through it, and like to my horror, after like 10 minutes, I realized that all the times that I watched that movie as a kid, either like it all just went over my head, or I was watching the television versions and all that crap was censored out.
Huh.
And at any rate, I feel like that's the case with like a lot of books too, where we're afraid that the kids are gonna remember it in a certain way, or think about it, but they just don't really care. So there's a fine line, I think, in here, and this is why I want the local control, kind of a thing. I don't want the big top down kind of thing, because kids are not going to care about some things, but there are going to be some things that kids absolutely should not have as part of their visual memory at as 3rd graders. They just shouldn't.
I agree with that last statement. Absolutely.
Yeah. I almost feel like I should go get some of those books just so you can.
Well, don't take this the wrong way, but I got to say, you have a good liberal view of the world to acquire the books in the first place and at least review them. I get stopped at the title sometimes and just say, nope, that's not going to be for me.
It's been a long time since anyone accused me of being a liberal.
I imagine. I did say you have a good liberal mind.
Yeah. Well, we just did a podcast live stream, I think last week, about free speech, and it was pretty clear that he's the guy who's identified as a liberal, but it was I that had the liberal view on speech.
Funny how that is, isn't it, these days?
Yeah. So in fact, did you know, just since you'll appreciate this, one of the facts that I brought up was, did you know that in the UK, 1,000 people a month are arrested for their social media posts? Were you aware of that?
Never heard of that. No.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
Sounds like not quite enough to me, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, no one was going to accuse you of having a liberal view on it.
No, I don't often get accused of that at all. For some reason, what you were just talking about there reminded me of the book Fahrenheit 451 too.
Yeah, right.
This whole subject was covered in depth and really beautifully in that book.
Yeah.
Boy, what year was that written? A long time ago, before
in the 50s,
before I was born.
I think, yeah. Or
Yeah,
maybe the
beautiful
60s.
little book. If you want to get into book burning, which is
Right.
ultimately what we're talking about in a way, it's kind of a virtual book burning, but yeah, Fahrenheit 451 turns the whole world on its head.
Yeah. Um, what was I going? Oh, and just today I learned, I don't know if you're aware of this, that in the UK they're passing a law, or they're poised to pass a law that would make people subject to arrest if they say something perceived as offensive in locations such as pubs. Like if you're sitting in a pub and you say something and the person at the table next to you is offended, you could be arrested. Apparently, this is soon to be the law in the UK.
Well, uh, I don't know about that, but let's say let's say that's what's coming. For me, that reflects the type of government that the UK currently has. That's exactly what you would expect from a socialist government, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So here it is, in case people don't believe
So
me.
it's a real thing. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I just heard about it.
I don't know about you and what you're like in a pub. We've not been in a pub together, but
Right.
my judgment seems to change a little bit in a pub. I don't know what causes that exactly, but there's something about being in a pub.
I'm sure it's the very strong coffee.
It's yeah, well, yeah, they have coffee. Well, yeah, okay. Um, yeah, holding people to account for the things that they say while under the influence. Hmm. Well, I guess we hold
Yeah.
people to account for the things they do while under the influence behind the wheel of a car. So, sure, I guess that's the logical extension of that kind of thinking. Why not?
All right. Well, maybe we'll come back to that. let's
Sure.
let's go on to another a book that I liked as a kid. I actually have a couple here. Well, I'll briefly talk about this one. I guess it's called the Iceberg Hermit. That's up there in Canadian ways.
Hmm.
A guy on a whaling ship, I think, gets stranded in a Inuit area, and he basically lives alone, but he's kept alive by the skills that the Inuits come by, and they look at the poor white man and like, well, he's he's gonna die probably, but let's teach him how to skin a seal, that kind of thing, whatever. And it's right in there with the theme of me going off to an island, is what I realize now. Like, so these books, I've always loved them, and I think it's just because it's just I've always wanted that, and I really can't put my finger on it, which is a really tough thing because I like sleeping in a bed, right? So there's a tension in this.
Did you have and maybe this is just the most common thing in the world, but I always had a recurring dream through my childhood and even as an adult that the world was a deserted place. The world was as it is now, with cities and buildings and streets and vehicles and airplanes and trains and all this stuff. But for some reason, I was the only one in it. And a lot of these themes that you're talking about, being stranded on an island or being stranded in the high Arctic, which is also a kind of desert,
Yeah.
a lot of that goes back to that kind of idea of being alone in the world. Was it Netflix or HBO that came out with the Last of Us series a couple of years ago?
Some Netflix, I think, but yeah.
It's kind of the same in a way. It's a similar theme. It starts differently. The world is normal, but then it rapidly devolves into a place where there's not very many people left. Uh, that that idea amongst people, I used to think I was the only one that had that dream, but it seems to actually be quite common, quite
Yeah.
pervasive.
Yeah.
I wonder where that comes from with us.
Right.
Because it's not something I was taught. It's not an idea that, my parents didn't teach me that someday the world would have no people in it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my version of it, I learned to do things as a kid. I learned to do things like how to drive a car to be able to get around. And eventually I learned how to fly an airplane. And I learned how to fly a helicopter. And then that took me, around here, it gets quite cold in the wintertime, as it does where you're at. And it became necessary to fly the airplane to get to a place where I could find food and warmth. And anyways, There's a lot of stories like that out there, and then this TV series as well that was created, which was really well done. And I'll throw in was filmed, right out here, right out my
Hmm.
window, a few years ago, or parts of it were. Um, so yeah, I don't know what how I stepped into that rabbit hole just now, but I'll throw that out for you to
Well,
pick up and
well,
run with now.
yeah. Well, so I had forgotten that you're a pilot, which is stupid of me. Well, I think I knew that you could fly, that you flew planes, but I didn't know that you did helicopters.
I have flown helicopters. I'm not a helicopter pilot,
Okay.
if that makes any sense. Yeah.
I don't think it makes no sense at all, but we'll kind of go with it. That might be another topic to do sometime, just to talk about those experiences that you have with that. But to go back to what you were talking about, um, you know, earlier in the podcast, I talked about how I possibly had some psychological explanations for why I like these, but now that you kind of make that point, it occurs to me that it does seem to be um, maybe not your maybe not universal, but certainly common enough that people can like make a lot of money from the premise, right, of being alone in the world. And the example that came into my mind while you're talking, and there's probably lots of them actually. There's a movie I think from the '80s called "The Night of the Comet," and it was the life is like normal, and then the comet goes through, and then everyone they just die. They just turn into dust, except for a select few, right? And
Mhm.
so the infrastructure is all there. It's like we have this bomb. I forget what it is, but apparently we have a bomb that kills all the people, but leaves the all the infrastructure, uh, which is brilliant, of course. But anyway, so these people suddenly there's like five of them in LA maybe, and they can just go to the mall and just kind of do whatever they want. And some guy at the end, this guy pulls up in some sports car or whatever, and um, she's like, "Oh, nice car," and he's like, "You like it? I got 80 of them." Something like that. So it's an illustration of what you're talking about. How like this theme resonates, and I do wonder where that comes from. I mean, we don't wish all the people dead. We just would like some peace and quiet sometimes on a more dramatic scale.
Well, it would be dramatic. I'm just remembering there's a Will Smith movie along these lines too, a zombie movie. Title escapes me
Oh,
right now.
I Am Legend, which
I'm
is from a
Legend.
book. I think from the same name, which I have not read.
I haven't read it, but I've seen the movie a few times. So yeah, there's lots of examples of this, isn't there? It's
Yeah.
you probably do a PhD thesis on how human beings got to be like this, and why that's such
Yeah.
a concept that embraces us so much.
To me, this a topic like this is like dissecting a frog. I mean, you can learn a lot about a frog by dissecting it, but it's dead, right? It's the living frog that is the thing that carries the mystery. And I would feel almost wrong trying to pull apart this mythos. But it would be nice to understand it a little bit more. Like, yeah.
You know the thought I just had. We're talking about children's books, and if you were to do a 30-second commercial of this podcast and just take snippets, it has nothing to do with. We get off the rails so easy, you and I,
Yeah,
when we're
yeah,
talking.
yeah. Okay, so another one then. Um, there's a book called the first book. It's a series. It's called The Great Brain, and I didn't try to. I probably have it, but I grabbed one of the series of it, The Return of the Great Brain, and this is kind of like a Encyclopedia Brownish kind of scheme where you've got the one kid that's brilliant, but in this case, it's set in Utah, I think. They're a Mormon family um, in the 1880s, 1890s, or whatever. And life in Utah in that time was not easy, right? It's a harsh landscape, but they figured it out a way. Hey, JB, you loved The Great Brain. Awesome. I thought maybe this would be one that no one had heard of. Have you heard of it, Rodney?
I have not. Sorry.
Okay. But one of the things that I love about this is, unlike in Encyclopedia Brown, where he's just kind of this nerd and the bullies are always picking on him, this kid kind of can use his fists a little bit. And yeah, thank you, JB. The father's Catholic, but he's married to a Mormon woman. So yeah. Anyway, none of that really was relevant to me as a kid. I'd be interested to read it again to see the extra layers. But he's always figuring out these schemes basically to enrich himself, kind of like the with Tom Sawyer, how he tricks the kid into painting his, wasn't it Tom Sawyer? Oh, you're gonna love painting the fence. It'll be great. But he just does that to everybody, even the adults in the Great Brain series, and he's always getting in trouble, but always getting out of trouble in brilliant ways. So in my life, I still go around to my wife and my kids and refer to myself as the Great Brain, and instead of seeing it as the joke that it is, because they haven't read the book, they just kind of look at me funny, and it just doesn't have the same effect.
The great brain. You the Nam.
Hey, come on! I got it fixed now. It's all fixed. So it's your turn. We've got about 13 minutes left here. We went through. Well, we didn't go through the third book. We sort of led with the first book, the Up and Away book.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny is Rodney sent me a link to the book, and the book that he sent me, similarly titled, but apparently he did not really study it because it was published in 2024. And so we had a conversation about how old do you have to be considered a kid, because if he thinks a book written in 2024, and you got to be at least 50, right? So I don't know. That's a whole new dimension of children's books, I think. But it was the wrong book, is the point.
Completely wrong.
Yeah. So I won't give that book any publicity.
Good lesson in reading for comprehension.
Yeah. So then we tried to find the right book, and apparently there's like 1,000 books that all have the same title. Did you ever find it?
No, I've been searching, but I still haven't produced the original one. So I remember that as being a good book, and it was certainly formative in my early years. So that's a shame.
So anyway, did you have any other books that this conversation may have brought to your mind?
Well, there's hundreds over the years, I guess, but I went through another exercise this morning because a lot of our conversations turn to, or recently our conversations devolve into discussions that somehow refer to AI. So my book is The Elephants and the Emperor, of course, and that's we've talked ad nauseum, I suppose, for some people about that book. But I brought up my AI chat window this morning and just fed in, generate a book that would be a good children's bedtime story, and do it in the style of Dr. Seuss. My instructions to the AI were extremely simple, not even 2 full sentences, really. And within 20 seconds or so, it generated this. It came up with a book about trains. So I did specify that it'd be about trains. So it created a cover image, and I can see you're putting that up onto the screen here now.
Yeah.
And just the characteristics of the cover, you can see there's trains. They have projected onto them the human feature of a face, and they're distinctively in other colors. And the title there, The Sleepy Time Train, is what AI came up with, and it nicely credited me with having the idea there. But it's nothing at all to do with me. I just wrote 2 sentences. But the key was Dr. Seuss style, and certainly AI understood what I meant by that. If you
Yeah,
have a
I
moment, I
can.
could just read a couple of paragraphs to you. And if you've
Yeah,
never read Dr. Seuss before, this gives you the gist of how he wrote.
yeah, and if it's on the screen, we can't read it. It's too blurry. So
No, I didn't arrange it quite like that, but
okay,
you can. There's only just the one image of the cover,
okay,
so let me. You've got to imagine now. You're laying in bed. You're in your pajamas. Your head's on the pillow. You are a little bit sleepy, but you're not really ready to go to sleep. You'd actually like to stay up, and you look up at mom and dad and say, "Can you tell me a story that nobody else has ever read or heard of before? It's got to be completely novel. It's got to be less than 1,000 words, and I need to hear it the next 5 minutes because I am getting tired."
Mm.
If you can imagine a small kid saying that kind of thing,
Yes, I can.
this is what it came back with. In a valley of tracks under star-scattered skies, where mountains stood quiet and moonbeams would rise, the sleepy time trains chugged along on their way, with whistles that whispered, "Good night, not good day." The red one was Rusty, who puffed with a yawn. He hauled cozy boxcars from dusk until dawn. He'd rattle and clatter, then blink sleepy eyes, and smile as he hummed under night's lullabies. Then Gertie the green train rolled out with a grin. She carried warm cocoa and blankets within. She'd giggle and wobble and ring out a tune, while stars danced above her and glowed with the moon. Now Bumble the blue train, a humbler old fellow, he tooted real softly and glowed in soft yellow. He'd whisper through tunnels and rumble through trees. He'd shuffle past rivers that rippled with breeze. Is the 50-year-old man in you getting tired of this already, Tony, or do you want me to?
I'm just listening. What?
Well,
What?
this has a beautiful meter to it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's good use of alliteration, really nice rhyming, and it really does read exactly, or to my memory anyway, exactly as Dr. Seuss would have written a story.
So, so is this going to be your next book?
Well, as you know, I wouldn't ever put anything
Ah,
out that
yes.
was written
You would
by
write it yourself, right?
AI.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
used in The Elephants and the Emperor. I used AI to generate the images because I can't
yeah,
draw good stick people, so I needed help
yeah.
with the images that I needed. And AI, uh, just did the most amazing job of that. But as an author, I feel that the words need to continue to come to us. But I also have to concede here, the AI author, created a completely novel story um, that's it seems beautifully written to me,
Hmm.
um, and it's reminding me of something else that there was a CBS special about AI about a year ago, um, and one of their investigative reporters was looking at what the AI could do and testing it and challenging it a little bit, and they gave the AI instructions to come up with a quick example of prose that would be striking and would strike an emotional chord in people. And the AI just wrote back one sentence: "For sale, baby shoes, never used."
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a really deep emotional connection to somebody that you look at that right away and go, "What do you mean never used?" Um,
Yeah.
that the AI generated that and not a human being was the most surprising part of it. And that's where that was one of the first times I tuned into AI as being a really powerful tool. I'm seeing it again today. If I had, a 5-year-old who had asked for a special story at bedtime,
Hmm.
you know, bang, 2 minutes with AI, and you've got a completely novel story that is just for him. And you can print this out and put it into
Right.
a scrapbook, and it's there for him, to go through when he's 40 or 50 years old with his kids. And
Hmm.
nobody else in the world has that story except just this place right here. So,
It is really interesting that, like, I feel like they don't really. The AI has gotten to a point where the people who make the AI don't understand how the AI is doing what the AI is doing.
oh, they lost control of it 5 years
Yeah,
ago, I think. Yeah,
I
it
think
got.
so. And I've watched some videos that seem to suggest that, and like when I kind of like wonder. to myself, why would you even make something that you can't understand in that way? Like me, a while I've done programming in my time. I always like just for troubleshooting, error logging, that kind of thing. I always made sure that I had a way to find out what was going on in the program. It's almost like they made the programs and then decide, decided to not put in those mechanisms for understanding what's happening. And like, why would you do that? I don't get it. It's not like the AI is making its own code, right? It's not
Mhm.
coding itself, is it?
Well, you're talking about being in control of the ghost in the machine. And that was a story. That's the Blade Runner story, right? From
Yeah.
1982. When was that? And that book is older than 82. Um, it's reality now. I mean, they did it. They have AI. We're sticking it into robots. Like it's part of the way robots operate now. It's not going to be very far down the road here. A couple of years, maybe months, and you're going to have robots tending to the coffee plants in your. I can't remember the word you had for your underground greenhouse.
Wallapini.
What's that?
Wallapini.
The Wallapini, yeah. So your
Yeah.
Wallapini robot, you'll get up in the morning, walk into the kitchen, and your robot will hand you your coffee, and it'll say "Good morning, Tony" in your favorite voice, and you can say, "Hey, don't forget to trim the coffee plants this morning, robot," and he'll go, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah," and go jogging out the door, along with the 3,000 other tasks you're going to have them do that day.
I'm not going to let some dirty AI robot touch my coffee plants. I got to keep
Okay.
some things back for myself.
What about the idea of having it hand you your coffee in the morning, though? Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Tony. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm maybe a little bit more indifferent on that. I'm not going to object to doing my dishes. So,
There you go.
I
Yeah.
mean, that one you win hands down. Yes, do the dishes by all means. But I don't really like the idea, and I've seen other people observe this. Um, OJ says this scene with the robot seems horrifying.
Oh, it's a horror movie, OJ. It's
Yeah,
a horror movie.
and OJ, if you remember, I think you might has a satirical news website that he uses AI to help generate.
Yeah.
So he is also kind of yeah. Anyway, where was it going? People have made the observation that AI seems to be really good at replacing the artist, but does not. No one seems to be care about having them do the dishes or the laundry. And it's like there's that. That's the disconnect. Like, and it's almost it's weird that the creativity part is apparently the easy part, which seems like wrong, like to even say out loud. But that's the part that the AI can mimic better than anything else.
I don't know what made me think about this earlier today, but I was thinking about Hollywood writers and screenplay creators and people like that are, that appear to be directly threatened by the emergence of
Yeah.
AI creativity. And it's just one example. I think, the entire legal profession is threatened by the presence of AI right now too.
Hmm.
There's any number of people that are going to be threatened by AI. But so I'm just going to use some random number. Let's say there's 5,000 people in the world today that have, worked for years writing screenplays for movies. They're the core of people that give us all the entertainment that we see. But out there's many more people with the creative idea and lots of ideas for stories, but they just don't have that talent that they can deliver to their fingertips. Maybe they never learned to type, or maybe they never learned to draw, or something like that. But they still have the imagination and the idea. And what AI has done is empower almost overnight another 50 million people that have ideas. And they now have the ability to just type in, write a script for me that has the following elements to it. And what's being generated is stories that appear to be just as engaging as the stories that we've been receiving from that original cadre of people that could only do this originally. So now we're going to get, so several discussions that go on here. One is about, should we allow AI to do the creative part of things, or should we should we regulate that somehow to leave it to just humanity to do that part? I think what's probably going to happen is we're still going to, as consumers, we're only going to choose the best of what either group produces. There's just going to be more choices for us. So I think there's an inevitability to the AI in our lives now, and we just need to be careful to make sure that it always leans towards what we perceive to be the good parts of life and not the evil parts of life. And that's a big concern I think everybody has, is that it could so easily go off the rails. It could hand you your coffee in the morning, or it could just throw it in your face too.
That's right. Yeah, because I looked at it sideways. I didn't bring it flowers, and now I got to pay. Yeah,
and it is sensitive, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so well, we could go lots of places with that now, but we've reached the official end of the time. But as usual, there's always a lot more to say, and I guess we'll keep most of it back for a podcast. But there was something on the tip of my tongue I was going to say about it. Oh, I believe that there is one limiting factor to the rise and dominance of AI from the creativity point of view, and possibly from other points of views too. Is AI learns by absorbing what we produce, right? So if all of a sudden AI is doing all of the producing of the creative stuff, AI is learning from AI, right? And so what we perceive as creativity, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just that, like if we have it like figure out how to process insurance claims, for example, something weird like that. Things have to happen in the real world by us for AI to learn from and then deploy and utilize. But if we use it too much, it's just going to actually, I think it could water it down at the same time. It'll implode on itself. And I think that point will also come where diminishing returns, might be the thing where we could say, where you could say, yeah, you came up with 3,000 great scripts, but it's all the same script now because AI had nothing actually truly novel. There's nothing novel left for it to find because it's all churning out stuff based on its own stuff. Did that make any sense at all?
Well, I would counter that Hollywood hit its limit a few years ago. There's nothing else.
Which is a
how
fair
many
point.
superhuman movies can we make?
Yeah, that's really a fair point. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. I think there's going to be a critical mass where everything just turns into vanilla, and yeah, it's just all the same. I don't know. I'm a fan. I use the AI, but I use AI all the time, not just for creative things, but practical purposes on a day-to-day basis. So it's already ubiquitous in my life. But I do see that potential where it turns into something evil too. And yeah, let's just go for the ride, I guess. See where it's going to take us.
Hopefully to a deserted island 1,000 miles from everybody else. But yeah. Well, Rodney, thanks for joining me tonight. It was somewhat late notice, but you had enough time to collect your thoughts, so I don't feel too badly about it.
I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk not just about my book, but children's books more generally. And I guess we got into one or two other things along the way there too. So that was fun.
Let me just pull that up here, make sure people get a good look at it. So if you'll just hold on as I bid everyone farewell. I will be able to hear you and you me, but nobody else will be able to hear you. So I'll just close it up, and then when I'm done, I'll come back and talk to you. So
Thanks, Tony.
thank you. So here we got to go right there. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. Um, I kind of felt like it was a somewhat of a slow start in its own way. Like, what's the premise? But I think that children's books, they're a microcosm and a window into all the philosophical problems that we might talk about. The sociological ones. We talked about uh, "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." I mean, which talks about some pretty deep stuff, and you know, okay, maybe the great brain doesn't really bring up big topics, but I guess where I'm going with this is like when we think about kids' books and books written for children, I think maybe we sometimes don't really give it the kind of prominence in our the prominence place that it deserves. Even if a lot of it goes over the heads of the kids at the time, these are ways for people to begin grappling with real life things in a relatively safe environment, just that environment being their own head, right? And so I think it's good that we do have these conversations, that we follow it down the rabbit holes wherever they go, because that's what happens when anyone tries to wrestle with the world and pick any book, probably any book, and any time, any amount of time thinking about the implications of that book. The next thing you know, you're talking about who knows what, and that's the beauty of a book, beauty of a children's book. And the sooner that kids can grasp that, the better, especially in our media saturated world where everything's so visual. With a book, the visual parts in their head, in their mind, in their imagination, and that to exercise that is a gift that we can give to them. So we are going to keep talking about children's books. I think we're going to keep publishing them if it seems that we have an opportunity to do so. Um, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check out the description where we have links to a bunch of things. Follow us on X, blah, blah, blah. I didn't tell you guys, and I'm not going to really get into it, about how YouTube quasi censored some of my videos. A topic for another day. But the reason why I bring it up is for this podcast to succeed, ultimately, we're gonna have to go over the heads of big tech, and I ask you to do your part if you like what we're doing. So follow us in all those places so you can be updated on the next time we have a broadcast. Thanks again for watching, and with that, if I can find the right screen, we'll be out of here. There it is. Adios, folks. Have a good night.